Greetings and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's December 15th and I'm going to be doing a backyard garden tour of the many things that I'm growing in my raised bed behind me and my backyard generally in the winter of 2023. It's now been 6 months since I've done one of these videos, and there's a lot that's been going on in my life and a lot that's just happened generally in the world of gardening. If you garden around Central Texas, you may know that Austin has now been reclassified as Zone 9A. So a lot of my old videos will say Zone 8B garden tour, something similar in the title. Things have changed, and even today it's probably 75, 80 degrees outside, even though I'm in this long sleeve shirt. So it certainly is warm here in Central Texas, and our plants have still suffered a little bit. You can see behind me, this basil right here is all dead and beat up. We had our first frost a couple of days ago, so it got down to be about 30 degrees. The exact suburb that I'm in is one in Manor, Texas, so kind of like northeast Austin. And there's still lots of really interesting things that are growing here. I'm going to walk around and talk about all of these things, but got some cilantro and lettuce here, and that big old Swiss chard in the back. And before we get started, I want to do our intro video for anybody who is new to the channel. I've been doing these garden tours for a couple of years, and I think it's helpful to see a highlight reel from garden seasons past.
The spacious firmament on high, with all the blue ethereal sky, and spangled heavens a shining frame, their great original proclaim. The unwearied sun from day to day does his Creator's power display, and publishes to every land the work of an almighty hand.
It's a nice still day in mid-December, so I thought today would be great opportunity to film one of these backyard garden tours. The conditions haven't been great this fall. We've had a lot of wind and a lot of rain, but now that it's still, I can get a proper recording coming out here, and there's all sorts of things growing. As I recently mentioned, we just had our first frost, and so we're doing all winter vegetables this season. I've had a few years of experience now and have learned some of the things that you can grow in this area and some of the things that you shouldn't be bothered with. So we're going to go take a look at this raised bed and talk about the things that are growing here. The raised bed is 20 feet long by 3 feet wide. I built it about 2 years ago when I bought my house, and there's all sorts of things in this backyard gardening space. If you're new to the channel, got a 4,000 square foot backyard, and now it's kind of become a playscape, which was really always the intention of the things that we've put in our yard. We've always wanted our yard to look like a park, and so our daughter gets to enjoy the yard, and some of our friends come over and we hang out. But I'm also growing some fruit trees in my backyard. During my last garden tour, I filmed my peach orchard and we did a peach harvest. I've had a lot of success with growing these plants and these trees, and I want to share some of my experience with you so that you guys can make an informed decision about the type of things that you want to grow. And my trees are so confused this year. I don't know what kind of harvest we're going to get next year, but some of these peach trees have not dropped their leaves yet. They don't really know what to do because though we've had one frost, and it's still really early in the winter season. It's December. The weather today is like 80 degrees. It's been kind of all over the place, so I'm hoping we get some really quality chill hours soon. But that being said, I want to be topical about these videos so that they're easy to watch. This one's going to be a little bit shorter because there's just less going on. I've had a lot going on in my personal life lately. For some of the older viewers, you may know that I'm a seminary student and I also work full-time as a software engineer. So I stay very busy. And that means that this season I really haven't had an opportunity to sow plants, keep the garden, or anything else. So this is a neglect garden at this point. Where we left off in the summer, I had done a seed harvest for a lot of cilantro, basil, and romaine lettuce, and radish seeds, all sorts of things that I was growing in the summer. And all of this cilantro and romaine lettuce that you see here is from that seed collection. These are the seeds that just dropped into the soil, and we have not had to buy cilantro for our tacos over the past couple of weeks. I was able to put some of this in a container, and not only does it grow well in the container, but as you might see in the background there, it grows well everything else. There is, man, that's not right. It grows well everywhere else. There's a bunch of granite behind this container, and all of that stuff on the ground, I mean, these are dandelions, but this is all cilantro. It grows well in the dense clay soil of our backyard as well. Not just the cilantro popping up here around the bottom of the raised bed, but there's just romaine lettuce popping up here with the weeds out of the clay soil. So it's surprising the things that grow. You can labor over these plants trying desperately to make them grow, and then you'll find that, you know, something you put in a raised bed dies, while meanwhile you've got romaine lettuce just coming straight out of the ground with the weeds. But all in all, yeah, this has been a good season. I have, as I mentioned, I've not had a lot of time to keep this garden over the past 6 months, but some of the stuff that's gone really well is this Swiss chard. I have these 2 Swiss chard plants, which I planted in the fall of 2021. So they've been here for a year and a half. And I got out this tape measure. I'm not sure this is going to turn out well on camera, but these are well over 2 feet high. And I haven't really had a chance to make a salad out of these or try to eat them because they're probably really bitter being overgrown like this. There's 2 plants in here, and I'm sure these have the consistency of just super bitter overgrown chard. That being said, it's interesting to see how big these can get. The plant that's right next to these is a blackberry plant, and nothing really grew from this last year. The plant itself, I was thinking about trying to propagate it, but being the winter, now is not the time for that. Obviously, it's still growing, and so hopefully in the spring we'll get to see something interesting come from this plant. That being said, I don't have a ton of plans for what I want to grow this winter. Last winter I had a lot of success growing carrots. We also did cabbage, radish, and as I've previously mentioned, romaine lettuce and cilantro, which we still have a whole bunch of coriander seed from. The basil did well this fall, but obviously never makes it through the winter, and so we'll take some of our basil seed and see if we can replant it. That being said, I want to talk about my fruit trees for a little bit. So, as I mentioned previously, we had a really successful peach harvest this last spring. We gathered, I don't really remember at this point, it had to be at least 100 peaches from our peach trees, but with the weird inclement weather, we've had super warm weather this winter, my peach tree has gone to seed, unfortunately. That's not the right term. It's flowered. It's put out flowers. It's blooming, which is not good because the tree spending this energy blooming, see we've got some tiny peaches here, is going to ultimately stunt its ability to put out fruit next year. This tree was one of the trees that did the best last year, and so I'm kind of disappointed that it's probably not going to yield a really great fruit crop this coming spring, but hopefully it holds on to life. Once again, at this point, I'm not even thinking about chill hours. I've read online that if you pinch these fruit off and even the flowers off, it doesn't matter because the chemicals that cause your tree to bloom are already fully active and the tree is obviously already very confused. So we're going to just hope for the best for this tree and see what happens. But some of my other trees, likewise, this is a weird time of year where, like, they should have dropped all their leaves at this point, but they're putting out new growth. And so that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm glad that not all of my trees are blooming. These 2 trees in the corner over here are both Tex Prince peach trees. And then on the other side of the yard, I've got some Royal Zest, and I'm trying to remember, man, it's been a long time. I think these are all Royal Zest over here in a Rio Grande off in that corner. But the tree that's doing the best is this one right here. I will splice in some video from this last summer. This tree did great in the summer, put off nearly 30 pieces of fruit by itself. And this is the exact type of growth that I'm looking for, where we've got fresh redwood on this tree. When I say redwood, I'm referring to this wood right here that's about the thickness of a pencil. This is what all the fruit's going to grow on next year. And so it's exciting. Likewise, I have this little fig tree which I planted this late summer. I bought this tree at a nursery in Fredericksburg while I was visiting, and we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. I planted a fig tree at a home that I owned 2 or 3 years ago, and the tree is bigger than this one now. I'm obviously not gonna go back to my old home and film there because I don't own it, but the tree's nearly 3 feet tall. So I know that these fig trees can take well with the warmer weather we've been getting. I have high hopes for this tree. Speaking of warmer weather, I mentioned earlier in the video that Austin has recently been classified as Zone 9A. So just a short explanation of what that means while I take a look at these last 2 trees. The USDA gardening zones refer to the minimum average temperature. I've done a couple of videos about getting started with gardening and what those gardening zones mean. Just means that our minimum average temperature around the Austin area is a bit warmer than it's been in the past. And I've definitely found that to be the case. That does not mean that we won't have hard freezes or that we won't get snow this winter. But it just does mean that on a day like today, 70, 80 degrees is to be expected. And so that's definitely going to impact the chill hours that these trees get, and will definitely impact the fruit yield that we see in the spring. Though last year went really well, I'm just hoping for the best this year, and we'll see what we see. But right now in the season, this is not a really great thing for these trees to still have so many leaves on them and be using so much of their energy to keep the leaves up. Again, this is the type of growth that our fruit is going to grow on next year. This is a Rio Grande tree. Here I realize that's kind of blurry. I don't know if my phone's going to focus there. There we go. About the thickness of a pencil is what you're looking for. If your tree doesn't have this growth, there could be a couple of different reasons. We unfortunately had a weed whacking incident where we had paid somebody to do some yard work for us, and this tree here that's missing leaves up top and has leaves down bottom has been really suffering from vine borers down at the base because it was weed whacked, and you can see the damage there. I'm honestly surprised this thing is still alive. One of our other trees that suffered in the weed whacking incident is the one that's been replaced here by this fig tree. So just be careful when you're doing landscaping around these trees. Weed whacking tears open the bark, and then these bugs, these borers, can get in and ultimately damage your tree. And today, that's all I've got for my video. I appreciate you if you watched this far in the video. Winter gardening is kind of a preparatory season where we're getting ready for spring. So there's not a whole lot to show off. I mean, obviously we've got the chard, and while that's neat, it's not as interesting as carrots or peaches or anything like that. So shortly I'm going to be getting ready to sow some carrot in this garden. Hopefully it should make for an exciting spring harvest. I want to take a little bit of time though to talk about the future of the channel. The reality of the situation is I have just not had as much time as I've had in seasons past to make these videos. Part of the reason that I started the channel in the first place was during the lockdowns, I just had so much time on my hands to spend at home and spending in Home Depot that I decided it would be good to document some of the work that I was doing. And that's been a lot of fun, and I of course do intend to continue creating these videos in the months and maybe even years to come. But the reality of the situation is I'm a father, I have a young daughter, and I have another one on the way. And so we're really excited and also really busy. Being a full-time student, well, a part-time student and a full-time employee, I have my hands really full, and I want to prioritize spending time with my family and things that are truly important. And while this YouTube channel has been a lot of fun, and I've really enjoyed making these videos, I just can't maintain the uploading schedule that I've done in the past of once a week or once a month. So do know there are future videos planned, future how-to video essays, and generally future garden tours, but we're definitely going to be on a 2 or 3 month upload schedule moving forward. So once again, thank you for watching my channel today. Do stay tuned. There are future things to come, but for now, thank you for watching Austin, Texas Gardening.